So we'll start with video number 3. This is a 3-part series, the videos. So we'll play part 1 now. If you thought the other 2 videos were great, these next 3 are just chef's kiss. Because now we're going to get into more detail, state by state. And there'll be plenty of examples. So just, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start this 3rd video. Let's go. Before I start, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking some time off of your Saturday to chill and hang with me and learn about USA accents. Moving on.
New York City, Trenton, North Carolina, Edricoke Island, Mississippi, and northern Florida. That's where you get the sort of Blanche Dubois, Scarlett O'Hara kind of classical southern accent. Hi, my name is Eric Singer. I'm a dialect coach. Today we're going to take a little tour of some of the different accents of English-speaking North America. Now, a couple of quick disclaimers. These are by no means all the accents in North America or even all the English-speaking ones. And not everyone from the same place sounds the same. Accents vary by socioeconomic background, generation, ethnicity, and race, and all kinds of individual factors. Because in a very real way, accent is identity. Different people from the same place have more or less localizable accents, and that usually has to do with identity too. Now, on some of our stops, we're going to be looking at some of the most distinctive and interesting local features, but it doesn't mean that everyone from there has that accent or has it to the same degree. I'm also going to have some linguists and language experts from around the continent join me today to lend their expertise in some of these areas.
Hi, I'm Megan Figueroa.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
Peace. I'm Sun Michaud.
Hi, I'm Kalina.
Hi, I'm Imani Doran.
One of the things you'll notice along the way is that accents often don't follow political boundaries, especially ones like state lines. They'll follow major geographical boundaries, things like mountains for sure, but what regional accent differences mostly reflect is settlement patterns and contact. Historically isolated communities like Ocracoke Island in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, or the Sea Islands in the Lowcountry in Georgia, can have really distinctive speechways. They've had the time and isolation necessary to diverge and develop them. That's the other thing that makes for accent variety: time. There's a lot more accent diversity in the British Isles, for example, where there are local populations that have been speaking English in their particular way for hundreds and hundreds of years. And there's more accent diversity on the east coast of the US than there is west of the Mississippi. It's been settled by English speakers longer. The first places English was spoken in North America were Roanoke, Jamestown, and of course, Plymouth, Massachusetts, where the Pilgrims landed in 1620. So let's start there. The Pilgrims spoke with what we call rhotic accents, meaning they said all their R's. In fact, so did almost all English speakers in 1620, including the ones in England. That's right, a Southern English accent might have used to sound something like this. It was only in the late 18th century that fashionable young people in and around London started dropping their R's, and from there the trend spread to America. Now, north of Plymouth Rock, we have Harvard Yard, one of the places you might hear a Boston accent today. The stereotypical Boston accents, of course, are non-rhotic, meaning no R sounds in park your car in Harvard Yard. Let's all get in the car and head south down the coast now into Rhode Island. Traditional Rhode Island accents here are still non-rhotic, but there's a key vowel difference. The placement for that vowel sound in park your car in Harvard Yard. We call this the start vowel. In Boston, it's usually pretty fronted. Park your car in Harvard Yard. In Rhode Island, it's back. Park your car in Harvard Yard. Ah. Rhode Island accents were shaped by a lot of Irish and Italian immigration, just like New York City. So many accents. They don't vary by borough, by the way. That's a myth. I know you guys are going to tell me to forget about it, but I'm sorry. Sociolinguists have studied this really carefully, and there just really isn't any such thing as a specifically Brooklyn or specifically Bronx accent. There certainly are a lot of different New York City accents, but they vary by socioeconomic background and by ethnicity and other aspects of group belonging and identity, more than by neighborhood or by borough.
The way what a great video. I mean, the way he just fluctuates from speaking normal and explaining, and he just goes into the accent. you have to pay close attention to it because it changes and varies between the location that he's talking about. I mean, in this short span of time, and it's only been 2-3 minutes, he's already gone through 4 East Coast accents, and he just does it right on the dot. I was raised in New York City for the first 14-15 years of my life, and I remember hearing these, again, I didn't really realize it back then, but hearing the different type of ways that English was spoken by my neighbors and, their, my friends and their parents and all that. And now thinking back at it, it's holy cannoli, it was a lot. There was just so much different ways that people were talking, and I never really gave much mind to it. But hearing someone explain it and kind of break down where it all came from, it's pretty interesting. So yeah, we're on the East Coast right now, and I'm let's see. I was raised in New York City, so let's see what he says about New York City.
Historically non-rhotic, though that's changing some in the youngest generations for sure. Here's something fun most of them have in common. The tongue tip hits the teeth, or close to them, on TD and N sounds instead of, a little further back. So you can hear that in this kind of New York City accent, tongue tip on the teeth, Times Square, New York City, and this kind of New York accent, 22nd Street, Times Square, Dumbo, taxis, traffic, and so on. Okay, so you may have noticed that all of these accents I've talked about so far sound pretty white. I'm going to take a pause here, and linguist Nicole Holliday is going to go a little deeper on African-American English varieties. My colleague Amani Dorn is going to demonstrate some of those accents.
Hi, I'm Nicole Holliday, and I'm a linguist. As we know, New York has all kinds of people in it. African-American English has a lot of shared features across regions because of its history. So Black people in Africa were kidnapped and brought to what is now the United States. At the time, they didn't all speak the same languages. They spoke multiple different African languages. And those languages came into contact not only with each other, but those languages were also coming into contact with the English spoken by the colonizers. This created a situation where there was a really unusual learning exposure to English, right? So there are all of these languages in contact with each other. And for economic and survival reasons, the enslaved people had to, in some ways, acquire English. But the English that they were acquiring was not like what you learn in the classroom, right? It was under this really unusual situation of acquisition. So some of the features that we see in modern African American English are a result of this contact between the African languages as well as the English spoken by colonizers, and those features have persisted over generations. After slavery was legally ended, the majority of African Americans remained in the South but experienced really extreme segregation. This led to different varieties of English being spoken in Black and white communities within the South, and even as they moved north during the Great Migration.
Nicole, how did the Great Migration influence accents?
The English that we see today spoken by African Americans has some features that have persisted throughout generations. TH stopping, so that might be using something like a D sound for where you see a written TH, so dat for that. You can hear that in this clip.
They said I could participate online. They said I could participate online.
L vocalization, so that's an L turning into a vowel in a word like pool or pull. Might sound something like pool or pull.
He said that's cool. That's cool.
We also see consonant cluster simplification. If you have a series of consonants at the end of a word, you might see them turn into just one consonant. So in a word like west, you might hear it pronounced as west.
It's been a minute, but she just left.
And anything specific to New York?
One feature common in New York City is what we call a raised vowel in words like thought and cloth. It sounds something like aw.
Coffee without froth on top isn't coffee at all. So let's get it together.
Okay, let's go back to Eric.
Thank you, Nicole. And even that's just the tip of the iceberg for linguistic diversity in this incredibly diverse city.
All my cousins in New York City talk like that. All of them. They were all born and raised in New York City, and they They don't hear it, but I sure do.
Around 50% of New Yorkers speak languages other than English at home. And for half of those, that language is Spanish. Megan Figueroa is here to tell us a little bit about one of those varieties, a variety linguists call New York Latino English.
New York Latino English is heavily influenced by Puerto Rican Spanish and Dominican Spanish. One remarkable feature of this variety is a light L, the sound that you would find in a word like, love, leaf.
Right, so New York Latino English speakers have a particularly light L. You can hear that in this native speaker clip.
I guess growing up, I know what it's like to not have a lot. I know what it's like to not have a lot.
In contrast to the light L, when you produce the dark L, the back of your tongue bunches. So think about the words milk,